Welcome back to another episode of the Dunces Podcast. We are back with another video and podcast, kind of. Isandro, what's up, my man? How are you?
What's going on, Dunces family?
We are back again, another week. We've been posting pretty somewhat consistently. This is our second week doing it. I plan on posting this video on July 9th, 2022. Hopefully not next year because, well, and today, guys, we have a lot to discuss, but we also know that there have been a lot of other moves around the NBA. Brogdon going to the Celtics. KD's situation is still up in the air. Other free agency signings that the Nets have done, and with T.J. Warren, bring back Mills, Claxton, trading for Royce O'Neal. A lot of stuff going on around the league, but today we're going to discuss about some players that have yet to be signed and that could be a possible contributor to either championship team or just a contributor to their own bag. So before we get anywhere, we're going to put up a doc for everybody of all the notable free agents. But before we get into that, I do want to discuss three players that just got their bag. And we're going to start this off with James Harden. So James Harden just got, he's expected to sign. My paper fell. We're expected to sign a 2-year deal, second-year player option, worth around $60 million, I would say, around there, to rejoin the Philadelphia 76ers. As we know, they made a few moves, and we're definitely going to get into more detail about that when we do our, each team, what we feel about what they did. But as for right now, we see that James Harden is reportedly signing that deal with Philly. Do you think that's a good deal? Should he have just taken that $47 million player option, or should he gone for a longer deal contract? What do you think?
No, he wants to win. And I think he's been hearing all the chatter, like James Harden doesn't want to win, he's washed, whatever.
Right.
So this is the clearest indication that James Harden knows what it takes to win, or at least we think, that's what it is. What
Yeah.
he did allowed them to sign more players. And
Yeah,
he's still getting a lot of money too. So
I'm in agreement. I just feel like he maybe could have done maybe 2 years guaranteed and then a player option. I mean, this is technically 2 years guaranteed anyway. Whether he just decides to decline or pick up that option, he's going to get that back anywhere. But what if he gets injured? He probably could have gotten more money with another extra year added to it at the age of 37 by the time that contract expires. You never know, because his hamstring injury is also a pretty big
but
deal.
what if after this last season he didn't do too good and people are talking, he balls out, he can decline and he can
Yeah.
do exactly what you said. He could do a CP3 because that's what
Yeah.
CP3 kind of did, right?
And let's hope he doesn't do that, because screw James. I mean, well, as a Nets fan, but as a basketball fan, hopefully it does work out for Harden and the Sixers, because I really think they have a chance this season, and I'm really glad that they got this done. But besides that, how do you feel about Philly's side of things? Do you think they got a good deal on that side, or should they have pushed for him getting a little bit less to potentially sign even more free agents, or do you think that their free agency is kind of just over with now?
I don't know if it's over with. I think they can still do more, but what they've done so far has been really good. The signings that they've made, this James Harden deal, I think so far so good. Because from where they were at before the free agency, our expectations were low because they
Yeah.
didn't really have a lot of cap space and their roster was kind of meh, other than maybe Joel Embiid.
Not
So
maybe, definitely Joel
nah,
Embiid. It's
yeah,
just Joel
definitely not
Embiid.
maybe. I'm saying like maybe like in the sense that
Yeah.
it's just him. Like I'm thinking, is
Right.
there anybody else? Maybe Harden, I guess.
Right. Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
I think it's a good deal for a number two, and he's a great number two. At least based off the name, maybe not on his play for the last 2 seasons, but based off the name, he's a great number two, and I think he's gonna ball out this season. He's working really well with Sam Cassell and Tyrese Maxey. Him and Tyrese are having a good connection. I love the signing for the Sixers, but now let's move on to another signing. Uh, One that I'm a little torn about, and I've discussed this before about Bradley Beal. But Bradley Beal signed a 5-year max extension with the Washington Wizards that includes a no trade clause. What do you feel about that deal?
at first I was like so dumbfounded. I didn't know that what it really means is that he can't go to a team that he doesn't want to go to, right? Is that how it
Yeah.
works?
Yeah.
So in that sense, that's really good because he gets his bag, and everybody's assuming he gets his bag and he's going to dip in like a year or two.
Right.
Let's hope that's the case, but really, I don't know if that's like a guarantee. What do you think?
Yeah, I think look, I'm all for players getting their bag, right? I mean, they work hard for it, especially loyal players, like we're going to talk about in just a few minutes with Damian Lillard. It's kind of like that same situation. You're getting paid for your loyalty towards that franchise. You're getting incentives because of your loyalty towards that franchise. My only issue with Bradley Beal is he hasn't really done much in Washington, and it's not all his fault. A lot of it has to do with the roster construction, but he is your best player on one of the worst teams in the NBA. It's that simple. And I say worst teams in the NBA because even if he is your best player, even if he does lead you to the playoffs, you're one of the worst teams in the playoffs. You're not getting out of it. It's like Russell Westbrook in Oklahoma City Thunder. He was the best player on that roster when KD first left. He won MVP and all that. You knew they weren't going to win anything, right? It was a good storyline for him. And then, now Russ has that, what can he do besides Durant? Well, what has Bradley Beal done without John Wall? And even with John Wall, what did they do together? It's not much. They don't really have much to go off of. And I feel like Bradley Beal could have made that bag, maybe not an NBA contract, but he definitely could have gotten it in another market. What that market was, I don't know. There really wasn't much market out there for him. Maybe the Wizards could have finagled the trade with Tobias Harris and something, and then have free up cap space for Bradley Beal, and then re-sign Harden and get into the luxury tax. I don't know, but I think Bradley Beal could have definitely found other options, maybe the Nuggets. I don't know, something like that. Instead, he chose to go for that bag, which I respect. But now, if I'm the Wizards, giving him that no trade clause is basically making him a free agent with guaranteed money, and it kind of messes up your franchise, because you won't get the best package for him. You'll get the package that Bradley Beal wants, and it's going to be a little bit hard to maneuver. But I'm all for it, man. Get your 500 plus, whatever that is, whatever the contract was. I don't know how much it was. I said 500 plus. That's a lot. It's probably like 200 plus, but still, that's a lot of money. So
he just said $500 million.
Yeah, I know. Basically, that's what he's getting in Washington. But yeah, that's a lot of money for not an aging star because he's still relatively young. He's 28, 29. But how much more can the Wizards franchise take of mediocrity? And Bradley Beal, how much can he take not contending for something when we all know that he can be somebody great, a great second option, maybe even a first option for a legit championship team. So I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about this, but it is.
Yeah, but he's not the only star though that we kind of see that. It's just like, what do you think? And maybe they know something we don't, but I highly doubt it.
I don't think the Wizards know what they're doing. But let's go into another player that's kind of in the same issue. Is it an issue? Because he's getting that bag, so he's happy. Damian Lillard was actually from the same draft class as Bradley Beal. If you didn't know. Damian Lillard
Forgot about that.
Re-signed a 2-year, $122 million deal, and it kicks in 2025 to the 2027 season. That is a lot of bread, man. That's a lot of money, and it's like 50-something million a year.
122 divided by 2 is 122.
That's basically, it's 122 million.
61.
61 million at the age of 35. I think he'll be 35 or 34. I think right now he's 31. That's a lot. That's a lot.
I don't think I've ever seen somebody make 60 in a year.
Well, inflation, then the salary cap is just going to keep going up.
Oh wow,
it's insane. It's insane to think about how
that makes no sense. Like, who's ever going to be worth $70, $80 million at one point?
Well,
it doesn't make.
You'll see. The salary cap keeps on going up and up. I think it's going to boost around 15% increase, this upcoming season. So you're going to see players getting paid 60. Jalen Brunson just got paid 25 million, and that was a solid bargain deal because you got players making 35 million. You know what I mean? So it's a lot. How do you feel about it though? For Damian Lillard's perspective, do you think he had to stay, or what? What do you think is his reasoning for
Li-
staying on
like
the
like I
Hawks?
said, maybe like same thing with the Bradley Beal situation. Maybe there's something these guys know that we don't. These guys who are signed in contracts for teams that really have no future. From our perspective, maybe the GMs and Dame, they know. Maybe Bradley Beal knows something that's going on behind the scenes, and maybe so Woj and Shams are gonna come out with something, and we're gonna be like, oh my gosh, these guys, what a master stroke, like Dame, they're somehow getting KD, it's a miracle. Now they're gonna
Right.
contend for the next couple of years. That's crazy, but unless
Yeah.
something crazy happens where Dame gets that legitimate secondary superstar or somebody who can make him a secondary superstar, I really don't like. Maybe he's delusional. Maybe he thinks that like even without that they can contend. I don't know, but to be honest, he's gonna be making a lot of money. He's gonna compete, second round exit if that's what you
If
want in your
that,
career,
if that second round
if
exit with
that.
the team that they got, I don't see them going anywhere.
But if that's what you want, then I mean we can't really complain because he's given a lot. He's been loyal and he's making his bag. It's like you do what you want, man.
Yeah, and I like it for him when it comes to getting the bag. Like I said, with Bradley Beal. But this means nothing to me. This just means that you're you're setting yourself up for failure because they're not gonna do anything with just Dame on that roster. And even if the front office does have something in mind in the back of their head, I don't see it coming to fruition because what assets do you have to trade for KD? What assets do you have to acquire other players? Putting yourself this deep into a roster that is poorly constructed, you have to re-sign Jeremy Grant this upcoming offseason. That's going to be like 30 million plus, depending on how he plays this season and how much he wants and how much other teams are willing to give him. You're kind of digging yourself deep in a hole for an aging superstar that, yes, has been loyal, but at some point, doesn't a team have to worry about their own future than anything else? You know what I mean? So it's a little complex. I don't really like it for the Blazers side of things, but of course, I love it for Dame's side of things.
I
And I
think
feel
it
like a team
balances
like the
out because
Blazers,
he's given a lot of his career to them
yeah,
when he didn't really owe them that, and now it's going to be on the other side. It's like, well, now he deserves a little bit. Maybe the Blazers
right,
would have loved to move on from a 36-year-old Damian Lillard who's not contributing as much, but
right.
he gave you a lot, and now you're giving him, so it's a give and take.
And with the Blazers, they kind of have to make these signings, right? And they have to make these trades, and they have to overpay for players because, frankly, no one is going to these teams. We see it right now in this offseason. They had a good significant amount of cap space, and they weren't able to get them. But it is what it is. And with that, now let's discuss free agents, notable free agents that are still on the board right now. So we're gonna do the same thing that we did last time with the Kevin Durant. If you haven't watched that, please check this out. Check it out on YouTube or listen to it on the podcast. I still plan on posting the doc on Instagram. I just want to see if I can make some edits to like actually have players and picks involved, and I'll see how I do that. But first things first, guys. Let me just share this screen real quick, and it is being shared, and it is being recorded. Nice. So let's look at these notable free agents, Sandro, and let's see like what teams they might actually go really well for. We got a player here in Deandre Ayton, and we're gonna start off with the bigger names at first, mainly because content, but also because there's not really much left in this free agency board. And I'm thinking that once this is all over with, maybe in about a week or two, once most of these guys have been signed, we're going to be able to finally go into team by team and see who is the winner, who is a loser in the offseason, and then we'll discuss that in more further detail. But for now, DeAndre and Isandro, I got three teams as possibilities. You got the Pacers, you got the Nets, and you got the Hawks. I don't really want to add any other team, at least to DeAndre, and we might do that for the same for the rest of these players, but especially for DeAndre right now, because there's not really a talk of any other team. I mean, the Pistons were rumored, but then they drafted big man. What was it, Jalen Duren? And then the Hornets were also rumored, but they drafted Williams. So with these three teams, the Pacers, Nets, and Hawks, which team would you like to see him on and why?
Probably the Hawks, I would say.
Really?
Trey Young, DeJounte Murray, that'd be a really good fit. I'm not saying they're championship contenders, but they would be like dark horse contenders, in my opinion. That's a hot take, but they'd be like the outside looking in, maybe
I
like a
don't think that's
Memphis
a hot take.
Grizzlies.
I think I think you're underestimating that big three. I think that would be one of the best big threes. If you're able to retain Bogdanovich and Hunter, and then you trade away Clint and John Collins, two players that are just not it for you. Kind of like, well, we discussed this last time in the Kevin Durant trade or whatever it was. We discussed the John Collins and a Clint Capella heading back to Phoenix for DeAndre Ayton and Cam Johnson. I can see that trade being great for both parties. In the Suns area, you look at John Collins and Clint Capella. Clint Capella used to play with CP3. John Collins is a rim runner, and can shoot. He would be a great addition to those guys. And in the Hawks case, you're getting a player that has been to the finals, knows what it takes to win at least a couple games in the finals, and now you're helping. You're still in that young age of Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, DeAndre Hunter tandem. I think that would be a great trade for both of them. I can see them as a solid top three team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, for years to come because
For
they're so young, like you
years.
said.
For years. But the Pacers, I also like that trade mainly because, or that signing, and mainly because I feel like that's the team that has enough cap space to do it, and a backcourt mate of Tyrese Halliburton, and then your front court guy in DeAndre Ayton, plus Jalen Smith on your side. I think that's a solid 1-2 punch and a solid rotation. And then you got coach and Rick Carlisle, who always gets the best out of his bigs, or tries to at least. I think that would be great for the Pacers side of things. But would the Pacers even want to look at that? I mean, I know that there's been rumors that they've offered him that contract, but should they? I mean, they're rebuilding. So what do you think that they should do?
I say why not? I mean, they're still young. They, like you said, they're rebuilding, but I mean, he's still young, so no harm, no foul, right?
Yeah, but does he want to go into that? You know what I mean? Like,
Because
you know,
yeah, because he still has to agree, right?
right. You know, they just drafted Ben Mathurin. He's a small forward or a power forward or whatever. I think that team would work really well to grow together. But I don't think DeAndre Ayton wants to grow at all. Like I think he's already been to the finals. He knows what that feels like. He might want to be a part of a contender, which is more than okay. But if I'm the Pacers, I'm giving him that money because I feel like him and Tyrese being around the same age, they can really develop into one of the best duos in the league and compete for years, a little bit like the Hawks. So the Hawks are more in win now mode than the Pacers are. And then they're just there because, well, the trade with KD.
KD fodder.
Yeah, that's not even that, but it is. Let's also move on to Miles Bridges, and I have a question mark next to restricted free agency, only because we don't know if the Hornets are planning on pulling that offer. I don't know if if no one has heard. He's been involved in some domestic abuse allegations, so there's not really much to talk about here. Uh, the Hornets, Pistons, or it's just completely not even in the NBA anymore. He's young. He's 24. He lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Of all the teams, though, let's say the charges are dropped, or I don't know, whatever the case may be. Do you even think Miles Bridges deserves, you know, 100 million, or should he get, something a little bit less with the Hornets or the Pistons? Like, what team would even offer him something? What do you think?
Pre-allegations, a team would have offered him that. Probably not the Hornets. Pre-allegation, I was thinking like, would the Hornets have matched whatever they got, or would there
Not
have
if
been
the
a point that they
Pistons,
passed?
not if the Pistons offered him with what was rumored. I believe it was rumored 115 from the Pistons, and I don't think the Hornets were going to
The
match
Hornets
that.
wouldn't have. Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't have.
No, because it's not really
Yeah,
about what he's worth. It's about what he's worth to you, to your team.
right.
If you can outprice the Hornets and you got a player, yeah, you're overpaying for him, but maybe you're a small market team. Maybe you're a team like the Pistons, where it's like, I don't really want to go there.
Yeah,
You do what you got to do to get that, get that asset.
right. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he would have been. I don't know what's going to happen to him. I hope, things work out for him, but I also understand that this is a very sensitive subject. So I also hope that she gets justice, If all these allegations are true, I'm all for her, whatever. But we don't really want to get too into detail on that one. So let's move on to Colin Sexton, who's a restricted free agent still. What do you think? Cavs, Mavericks, Spurs. Is there any other team that you think can benefit from a Colin Sexton? I don't personally. That's why I only put these three. But what do you think?
Yeah, these three are kind of. I really, honestly, Colin Sexton is the biggest enigma for me because I'm like, I don't know, like who, like not that he's not
What is
good.
he? Yeah,
What does he offer any team?
right.
Because again, I cannot stress this enough. He's a good player. It's like
Yeah.
what team would be a perfect fit for him, or what team would be willing to take on that contract? I don't know. Does he go back to the Cavs and
I,
run the second unit? Does he want that? Like
I could
I
see him
don't know.
going back to the Cavs, but then finding a trade partner at least in the middle of the season or next offseason. Because I just don't see where he would fit alongside those guys in Cleveland. I really don't. I don't see what his usage would be. They got their point guard of the future right now, Darius Garland. They just signed Ricky Rubio, who still might be out for a few months. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what they're gonna look for, but it is what it is. I would like to see him on the Spurs only because the Spurs are rebuilding. And they could probably use a player like him. I just don't want the Spurs to overpay for him, and I doubt that they would. And then the Mavericks, he would have been a good player, if Jalen Brunson, now that Jalen Brunson is gone. But what trade assets do they have that Cleveland would even want for a signing trade? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't see him anywhere but the Cavs. If I'm being honest, and it is what it is with them. The next few players we mentioned, these are players that probably won't get signed. I mean, maybe a few of these guys will, but maybe they won't get signed anytime soon. You can see a lot of them that can potentially be throughout the offseason, filtering in and out, 10-day contracts, whatever the case may be. But I'm going to start by saying that most of these players, or basically all these players, would be on teams that are competing for a championship today. So you're going to see a lot of Miami. You're going to see a lot of Lakers who are competing for a championship, but they're really not, or whatever. You got Clippers, Mavericks. A lot of these players are rumored to go there. So out of the list of these guys, out of the list of these 12 guys, who is somebody that you're like, okay, this team definitely has to pick this guy up like right now? Like, what do you think?
Like a specific team or just somebody who needs to get picked up in general?
A specific team has to pick up a specific player on this list.
So like it would be Demarcus Cousins to one of those teams.
Yeah, or a team that you might have because remember I'm the one that wrote all this. So if you have a team, by all means, man.
No, it's really hard to think of something like that off the top of my head. Right now, I'm just thinking of free agents that need to get picked up ASAP. In my opinion, it would be guys like DeMarcus and probably Tony Snell. But if we're talking DeMarcus and like which team would need to pick him up, I think probably the Jazz. Like, yeah, he's really not good defensively, but it's kind of an interior presence. And
Right.
you guys just lost Rudy. So yeah, I feel like the Jazz would really be good to pick him up. Mavs, not really because they have Christian
Just
Wood
got JaVale and Christian Wood.
and JaVale and Christian Wood. And
Right.
the Heat, is Dedmon not there anymore? I thought they had a
Dedman's
Dwayne.
still there. Dedman's still
So
there.
I feel like with Dedmon and Bam, they're set. Their biggest problem has always been offense. DeMarcus can give that, but not the kind of offense they need. So
Right.
I feel like if we're talking about DeMarcus, the guy over here overall that really needs to get picked up, because to be honest, I feel like the Nuggets really dropped the ball
By
in
signing
letting him go.
DeAndre. Yeah, DeAndre Jordan. That was a
It's
stupid
on
signing.
Jordan. Yeah.
Stupid signing.
But how DeAndre Jordan stays in the league blows my mind.
It baffles
It's
all of
just
us, man.
I am
Yeah.
bereft.
You're bereft. Love that. It's gonna be the title of the podcast. Isandro is bereft. The DeMarcus Cousins thing, though, if there's any other team that you can think of at the top of your head for DeMarcus, I just can't. I think that if Brooklyn would have, if none of this stuff would have happened with Brooklyn, I feel like DeMarcus Cousins would have been a clear cut choice to be picked up. The Warriors is another team that I can see him going to, just because it's an easy championship, right? But I don't know. I would say Miami. Just for the culture, I feel like he would fit in Miami pretty well. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the Utah Jazz the team that has to pick up somebody like Demarcus because they have nobody on that roster. So I mean, unless you claim Udoka as Ibuki as your starting center, but even I don't do that, and I love you as Ibuki because of his name. But what other players you got here? I see Dennis Schroeder. Do you think Dennis Schroeder should be picked up? Like what's going on with Dennis?
Yeah, just depends on how much his price is, but the fact that he's an unrestricted free agent and a team hasn't picked him up yet could mean he will come at a bargain. Really depends. What team was he on last year? I thought he was on the Celtics, and then they traded him,
Boston
right?
and Houston, yeah.
And then did Houston buy him out, or what happened? He
No,
just stayed there till the end of the season?
he stayed there, balled a little bit, but nothing too crazy. He really fumbled the bag 2 seasons ago. He should have just
Yeah, we're
re-signed
never
with
gonna
the
stop talking
Lakers,
about that.
and now he's just there, just a person.
Yeah,
Um,
and
but
now like he's worth what he settled for when he could have had like 20 less, a little
right,
less than 20.
yeah.
Crazy.
So let's move on here with any other player. I think a team that can use at least one more weapon is Jeremy Lamb. I mean, a team. Sorry, a player. A team is the Sixers, and I think Jeremy Lamb would be perfect for that team. Um, maybe even Tony Snell, but I can really see the Sixers picking up a guy like Jeremy Lamb. I just think it's so important to have another shot creator off your bench. Um, and Hassan Whiteside is a good player for the Warriors or the Hawks. The Hawks for having somebody off your bench who can play defense, even though you got Okongwu, I think they would work really well together. Um, but I can see Hassan Whiteside going to the Warriors to being that backup big for Deandre and now that Nemanja Bjelica is gone and all that stuff. Is there any other player here that you're like interested in that you're like, oh man, maybe the Lakers could use him, or maybe the Miami, Boston, Phoenix. What are the teams out here? Do you think? What other player do you think out here?
Maybe Juancho, just for
Oh
as an
please,
honorary mention for sentimental reasons.
yeah,
Maybe the Lakers could use him. Maybe I mean maybe the Nets could use him. What do you
yeah.
think?
I don't know. I don't know where he would go. I would like to see him back in Minnesota, just for the just to be a part of that team because the Timberwolves need players. They need bodies. Now that they traded half their roster for Gobert, which we will also touch on another day. Um, what about LaMarcus? LaMarcus Aldridge. He didn't really have a good season last season. He's very up and down with the Nets, and I don't blame him at all. I blame Steve Nash. I blame the Brooklyn Nets organization. What do you think? What do you think with Demarcus Cousins? What should he do?
What do you mean?
Like what team should he want to go to?
The
Like what team
Jazz.
should pick him up? What? LaMarcus?
Yeah. Oh, LaMarcus. I think they said
Yeah, no,
DeMarcus. I'm like,
no,
wait, didn't we just talk about
LaMarcus.
DeMarcus? Ah,
LaMarcus.
LaMarcus. I think he should go into retirement.
I think he should go to Phoenix.
Oh,
I think
Phoenix. Yeah, that's a good
Phoenix.
second option.
I think Phoenix. Well, he should have definitely retired years ago, even though he did. But whatever. No,
He
I can
did.
see.
He
I
came
would love
back.
to see him in a team like Phoenix. I think he'd thrive really well there. And if not LaMarcus, I feel like the Sun should go for Dwight. I know I don't have him there. I know I have him for Jazz, Miami, or New Orleans, but I would love to see Dwight in Phoenix to play alongside Chris Paul, both drafted in the same year. Obviously, very different careers, but they were drafted in the same year. And then one player I got here with if KD and Kyrie stay in Brooklyn, uh, is Carmelo Anthony. Should Carmelo Anthony be picked up by a roster, or is it just over with now because he
I don't know. He's gonna be a year older, and teams were targeting him on defense. He's never been good on defense, but the fact that
never.
he's slowed down significantly on offense, and it's kind of like getting harder to justify the turnstile defense. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um, should he go to a contender?
I feel like he should just retire a Nick or a Nugget. It's one of those two.
He's got to retire a Nugget. Yo, him to the Nuggets would be nice.
Yeah, him, he would be a solid. It's
A
just 10
good
minutes off
bench
the
piece.
bench. 10 minutes off the bench.
Dude,
That's all you're
him
asking.
and Jokic, Jokic can make anybody. Like honestly.
Yeah, and he's a reliable triple shooter, shooting like 40% from the three. That's
Yeah.
great. And he's
Remember he
37
started
years
off last
old.
year really hot, and we were like, oh my God, Melo,
He's
why are you
cooking,
carrying this team?
cooking.
Him and Malik.
He really was. And then you got another player, Montrezl Harrell, who also has some charges against him. I believe it has to do with weed or I don't know. What do you got for him? I can see him going to Philly. Being that backup big to Joel, playing
Yeah, I think
as a
so.
second unit.
He would definitely provide something different
Yeah,
because no defense, all offense, smaller,
rim running
good
offense.
wingspan. Yeah, rim
Just a
running
Kenneth
offense.
Faried on steroids.
Manimal, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Manimal 2.0.
And
Yeah.
one last person I want to mention. Well, two people actually. Lance Stevenson. I kind of mentioned him a little bit before. Do you think he should be part of a contender or just go back to the Pacers, or is he also another one that's just kind of like just done, like an Elon Shumpert, Gerald Green type, where you just let them walk away? What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, because I
Let
would
him
say
walk.
even in his prime, he was nice. He was
It
like
wasn't anything
decent.
special. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
solid.
exactly. So now that
Nothing.
he's older, it's like, why? Like
Yeah,
you gotta be like you gotta specialize in one area, like be decent. Like
he just
you gotta offer a
specializes in
team
being fun.
something.
Yeah.
Like what can he
Um.
really offer a team at this point in his career?
Yeah, not much. I don't. I mean, I don't think obviously. And then Rondo. This is more like respect, but I also know he
Sentimental.
has. I know he has some charges against him. All these players, man. What's going on?
He
But
has charges
Rondo,
against him too.
domestic abuse, idiots.
That's
But
crazy.
Rondo,
Respect women, fellas, please.
yeah, yeah. Rondo is expected to either retire or go really nowhere. I don't really know much. I would say just sign a 1 day, 1 day deal with Boston, retire a Celtic like Paul Pierce did, and just call it quits. What do you think?
Yeah. How old is he? He's old,
He's
facing
37.
charges, like you said. Yeah, I feel like that's it. Unless he wants one last dance, one more go at a contender. But Boston's a contender. I mean, you might get like 4 or 5 minutes a game, but they're a
Maybe like
contender.
not even, maybe not much, but enough, I would say. But yeah, this is pretty much it for the free agency board. I mean, there's not really many players out there anymore, which is kind of why I wanted to make this video. I'm gonna stop the share real quick, back to our faces. Um, so all I want to say is with everything, right? These are players that we don't even know are gonna get picked up. There's more players out there. There's players we don't even know from like France or whatever that might get picked up. What should they do? What should all these teams do? The most important teams that need more pieces on their roster. The Timberwolves, after gutting their roster, the Sixers, the Nets still need to make moves, whether they're gonna bring back Kyrie and KD or not. They have to make moves to see what's good and beneficial for Ben Simmons. Another team I can see making one more move because of all the players that they lost, Gary Payton and Bielitsa and all these other guys. The Warriors. They only picked up Dante DiVincenzo. They're getting all these younger pieces back. Moody, Kuminga, Wiseman is finally back. And then they drafted this other kid. But now they're in need of a backup big. You got Hassan, you got Dwight. A lot of these players out there. There's so much left, and I think we need to wait for the three main guys. And by three main, I really just mean two, because who knows what's gonna happen with Miles. But in Deandre Ayton and Colin Sexton's case, we got to figure out exactly what they plan on doing. So it's exciting. There's a lot more to talk about. We'll definitely get into it a little bit more in the next couple of weeks. We'll have a full podcast breakdown on each and every single team. At least we'll try to. But if that's all we have to say here, please like, subscribe, and hit the like button down below. Shout us out to all your friends, families, dogs, cats, grandmothers, and brothers and sisters. Please, we need the subscribers. We need the podcast listeners. We need all of you guys. And last but not least, please comment on our videos. We need some
Engagement. Yes.
Instagram. We're on Instagram. If you guys didn't know, follow us, please. The Dunces Podcast. We're on Twitter. We're on. That's it. Instagram and Twitter. We're about to get a TikTok, maybe. I don't know.
No. Yeah,
I
we'll
don't
see.
want it. I don't want it. But
You
we'll
don't
see.
want it, but
We'll see.
it's what the
It might
people
help
want,
us.
Jason.
It's what the people want. Yes. And with that in mind, guys, please shout us out and do all that stuff again. Have a good night and peace.